Excellency, President of Côte d'Ivoire, Prime Ministers and Ministers representing ICCO member countries, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. It's my privilege to be in Côte d'Ivoire today, the world's largest cocoa producer. The future success of the chocolate industry is inextricably tied to the success of the farmers in origins at the start of our value chain. So I want to talk to you today about how we can and how we must put those farmers first. So let me start with the good news. The first bit of good news is that more and more consumers around the world are getting their first taste of chocolate, and they're enjoying it. But on top of that, there are billions of other consumers who haven't yet tasted chocolate. So we have a fantastic opportunity ahead of us as an industry. We all know that you can't make chocolate without cocoa. So this is a huge growth opportunity for the whole industry, from farmers all the way through to retailers. In addition, as we turn our minds to sustainable cocoa, the other element of good news is that more and more individuals, more and more organisations are truly striving to make this industry sustainable. They're making more investments, they're training more farmers, they're running more programs, they're getting more inputs to farmers. And there is a real willingness and energy to try to tackle the complex issues at in this value chain. And I think those of you here in the room today represent an awful lot of that energy. The final piece of good news, I think, is really about what's happening here in Côte d'Ivoire, the biggest cocoa origin. The reforms and the reinvestment that the government has been driving are starting to make a difference. They're improving price transparency, they're improving quality, and they're making the supply chain more efficient. We see that and we hear that from many of you. So I'd like to congratulate the Côte d'Ivoire government on the progress on the measures and what they've committed to in the future. So that's the good news. What's the bad news? I think the bad news is that despite all of these great initiatives, all the great efforts from all of us collectively here, the key metric of yield per hectare has not really changed in decades. It's still less than half a tonne per hectare across the world. And I put it to you that this is the key metric. If we don't move this, then farmers are not going to become more profitable, not going to become more prosperous, and their families are not going to be successful. So it's a direct correlation on the quality of the family life at the farm level. For me, this is unacceptable. And it's unacceptable because it's been shown over and over again that the yield can be improved by at least a factor of 3. And if we do that, the farmer suddenly, that's transformational. The farmer moves out of poverty and starts to become a professional farmer. If, and the key is, if we can get the right training together with the right plant material and the right fertilizer. So we need all 3 things of those in place. Now, I was in the Sucre region this weekend in Côte d'Ivoire, and I saw many trees that were 30 or 40 years old and had been producing as little as 200 kilograms per hectare, 0.2 tonnes per hectare. And that's pretty typical. These trees we grafted 2 years ago, and they're now producing 2 tonnes per hectare after just 2 years. This is the future. This is transformational. We've just got to do it at scale. We collectively have the know-how to transform the lives of cocoa farmers, but we haven't done it yet. And that, for me, is unacceptable. It's also unacceptable when you see what's happened to other agricultural crops around the world. There are many, many examples, just corn or cotton, where the yield has improved at least 5-fold over the last few decades, whereas cocoa has stayed flat. So what's going on? We've got, on the one hand, we've got lots of training going on. And we estimate that around about 10% of the world's cocoa farmers have had some training. So around about 600,000 farmers. But actually only about 1% of the world's farmers have had that full package of training and fertilizer and new plant material. And that's the issue. Just as fast as we're making some farmers more successful, others are actually getting less successful. And that's why the total hasn't really changed. So is there any hope? I'd say there is. And I think there's some hope because along with that good news and the bad news, I think there's some new news. A number of items, a number of things have changed. I think firstly there's a real growing alignment as to what the core issue is here and how to solve it. And again I propose that the core issue is about yield. If we can boost yield, the farmer has more income, improve the life of their family with better nutrition, better education, better health, but also has enough money to reinvest and to start to become a professional farmer that's reinvesting in his farm, new plant material, new fertilizer. Then we have a chance of the next generation wanting to be cocoa farmers. Now, I'm sure you've all seen the same as me as you travel around, you go to village after village, talk to farmer after farmer, and it's very, very hard to find a farmer who wants his kids to go into education, it's kids who want to go into farming, or kids who want to work in farming. They'd rather do pretty much anything else. And for me, there's no better definition of the sustainability challenge than that. If the next generation don't want to be farmers, we all have a real problem. I think the second piece of new news is that the science and how that's transferred to farmers, we've learned a lot in the last few years, and I think that's improving fast. So with the sequencing of the cocoa genome, and that being in the public domain, we should expect that the quality of planting material improves dramatically over the next few years. More productive, more disease resistant, and with the right flavour attributes. But on top of that, I think we've learned how to transfer that technology to the farmers. And that's perhaps the harder part. We believe we have the right mechanism now, building hub-and-spoke networks of cocoa development centres, cocoa village centres, where we can reach out progressively to more and more farmers. We've been building them here in Côte d'Ivoire, in partnership with the Côte d'Ivoire government, and in partnership with many of you. I'm delighted to confirm that pretty much every processor operating in Côte d'Ivoire has joined up with this programme that we call Vision for Change. I think the third bit of new news is that there's a recognition that the efforts so far have failed in macro terms because there's been too many and too small. And this has been hugely inefficient. We need to be efficient if we're going to reach 10 times as many farmers in the next 10 years than we've reached in the last 10 years. So I put it to you that we've overcomplexed this issue, and our opportunity is to simplify and focus. I think there's also some evidence of acceleration and alignment going on. Certification, which is part of the answer, not the whole answer, has grown to be the largest scale program in the industry, reaching 6% of farmers in just a few years. And there is increasing commitments to 100% certified sustainable cocoa from the industry. But I think finally, and perhaps most importantly, there's a growing consensus that the catalyst and leadership for change must come from the biggest industry players acting as one with the origin governments. This has never happened before, but I believe we're now closer than we've ever been to making this breakthrough. And initiatives such as the Public-Private Partnership Platform here in Côte d'Ivoire are exactly the kind of government-led and industry-supported program that we need to fully align behind, but align as one behind. So my hope is that in 2013, we'll finally move from many small, worthy activities that in total are not really achieving much change, to a few massive, fully aligned initiatives. This is the breakthrough that we need. And to give that some scale, we need to get to more than 1 million farmers with more than 1 billion new plants, together with the training and the fertilizer. It's simple, but massive. So in summary, I call upon the other big industry players. We either align and commit at scale, and then work as one with the origin governments, or we will fail. If we fail millions of cocoa farmers and their families, as well as limiting the growth of this great industry. For me, failure is unacceptable. We all need to play our part and put the farmers first. Thank you.